Good morning. My name is Paulette Covington-Lassane, and I'm here with Ms. Barger. Welcome, Ms. Barger.
Thank you.
She is a third grade teacher at Hebville Elementary, and she has agreed to set aside some time to allow me to interview her with actually interview you on the InTasc standards. So my first question today, Ms. Barger, is how do you determine readiness in your classroom?
Readiness for the students or for me?
For you. For both, actually. That's
okay.
Good. For both.
I think it has a lot to do with both student and teacher preparedness. So it comes down to, did I do what I need to do to prepare for the lesson that day? Did I plan out everything I need? Do I have my materials? Mm-hmm. And do the students feel like they're ready to learn? Because the students feed their energy off of you. So if you come in prepared, calm, and ready, you know exactly what they're doing for the day, and you give them clear directions, they're able to follow along, and they're willing and able to learn. I think it really comes down to how much preparation that the teacher has put in to the plan for the day.
Okay, excellent. What are some ways you design instruction to build on prior knowledge and relationships?
For prior knowledge, it comes down to a conversation with your students. So usually I have warm-up problems or an entrance ticket for the day, and with those warm-up problems, I'm able to assess what they already know about the task, what they're already able to do, and I design my instruction around that. Okay. So if I give them that entrance ticket and they're able to fly through it, I know that we need to move right to the challenge work that I've set up for the day and make it a little bit more challenging and rigorous for them within the classroom. But if they struggle right away, I know, okay, we need to spend a little bit more time on this skill. This is something we need to build on.
Okay, good response. So what can a teacher do to promote the role of peer relationship in the learning climate?
I think students working together is what builds peer relationships the most. So I always set aside time for small group work, whether it be in reading or math, where students are able to work with a partner or with their table groups. And that camaraderie of them working together builds stronger peer relationships because they're able to feed off of each other. They're able to work together in a cooperative learning environment, and it leads to better peer relationships.
Okay. So between, you said the cooperative learning environment, is that a favorite of yours? Do you have a particular?
I love when the students are able to teach each other. So I try and make sure that I have heterogeneous groupings within my table group. So I know I have my students who are really strong in math are maybe paired with the students who struggle a little bit. And I find that they learn so much better when they're able to build off of each other.
Okay. How can digital and interactive technologies be used effectively to reach specific learning skills or goals?
Well, you know, I'm the tech person, so I love interactive technology in the classroom because it gets the students really engaged and it gets them excited about learning. So you've seen us use the Active Inspires in the classroom, and I think it makes the teaching and learning so much more effective because the kids get excited about it. They want to work together. They want to be able to put in the right answer, and when they see the answers pop up on the board, they cheer and they get so excited about it. But they like it because it's new. They like it because it's what they're using at home. They go home and play video games. They go home and play on the computer. And if you're able to bring that piece of technology into the classroom and make it about learning, it's more about fun for them than it is about learning, and it makes learning fun.
Well, thank you. That was an excellent response. Okay. How do you align instruction and assessments with learning goals? I know that's been a big problem with new teachers. How do you keep it relevant and reliable?
Well, luckily, where I went to college, it was a requirement of the components in the lesson plan where you went from the objective to the assessment when you were lesson planning. Okay. So you always had to make sure that your assessment for the day, whether it was formative or summative, aligned directly to the objective. So, for example, when I was doing my observed lesson the other day, I had to make sure that my objective for the day, which students will find the sum of estimated add-ins, matched directly to the assessment that I was given. So I made sure that the students were finding the sum of estimated add-ins. So it comes down to knowing what your objective is for the day and immediately going from that to the assessment to make sure that they align.
Okay, so let me make sure that I'm understanding. So in other words, you make your objective, you sort of work backwards.
Yes. That's exactly what I do. I go right from the objective to the assessment, and then I fill in the gaps in between with what we're working on.
And that's an excellent strategy. Okay. I'll be sure to use that. I think we should all use that. Why must plans be open to adjustment and revision based on learning needs and changing circumstances? Why?
One of the buzzwords that has been around this year is flexible instruction. And it comes down to the fact that as you're teaching, you can have that oh no moment when you realize that what you are doing is not working at all in the classroom. So it really comes down to you being flexible enough in your instruction to say, okay, they're not getting it this way. I need to change what I'm doing immediately to make sure they understand the objective for the day. And if you don't have that flexibility, you're just going to keep pushing away at something that's not working, and your students are going to leave the class for that day feeling like they didn't accomplish anything.
Okay.
And I think it really comes down to you being able to have that assessment through instruction, whether it be observational or you having an exit ticket or whatever it is to say, they don't know anything about what's going on right now. How can I change what I'm doing to make it easier for them, to make it more understandable for them so that they understand what's going on? We're required to do reteach groups in math, which of course you're very familiar with. And what Sandy always says when I go in for my pre-observation is, how are you going to teach it differently during reteach? Because obviously the initial instruction didn't work.
Right.
So how are you going to change that now for them? And sometimes it's about going through that planning process of, okay, how can I switch this instruction around so that even more learners will understand it? And it's challenging for me, but it helps them in the long run to make sure that they have as much diverse instruction as possible.
Okay. What types of strategies are considered appropriate to adapt to the needs of individuals and of group learners?
In terms of adapting my instruction, I really try and hit as many of the multiple intelligences as I can, and that's one of the main strategies that I use. So I know that I have my visuals in the classroom. I know that I have directions posted, that I've given it to them orally, and that I've had people repeat it back to me so that they know exactly what they need to be doing. I try to incorporate technology whenever possible. I try to incorporate students getting up and moving, or manipulatives for my tactile learners. I really want to make sure I'm reaching every learner in my classroom. And I know that I have a classroom from one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of how they like to learn. So it takes a lot more instruction time and a lot more planning, but you really have to make sure that what you're doing is best for your kids instead of what's easiest for you.
Right. So you have to step out of your comfort zone sometimes.
Yeah.
How does a teacher build and implement a plan for professional growth based on feedback received through your informal or formal observations?
Well, one thing that we have to do this year is create a teacher development plan, basically, which is where we look at our observations, where we look at what our principal has said to us, and we look at how we feel about ourselves as teachers, and we set goals to improve the skills where we think we're lacking. And I think that's a really great strategy. I was building mine the other day during professional development, and I told Sandy, I was like, I had trouble narrowing it down to just one thing, because I have so many things that I want to improve. And it really was like focusing on what's the main thing that I want to improve about myself. But I think it's a lot about reflection and looking at your instruction. How could I have done this better? And that's really what I ask myself at the end of every lesson. What could have been done differently? How could I do this better? What did I like? What didn't I like? And it's about constantly adjusting.